All right, let's dive into the world of charcuterie board businesses.
Sounds delicious.
It is turning a love for, those delicious boards into a full-blown business. We got a fantastic guide here, chock full of insights. And lucky for us, we've got our expert on all things food businesses and market trends. So first things first, what initially stood out to you from this guide?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned full-blown business. What's really fascinating is how charcuterie boards have gone way beyond simple party snacks.
Beyond just like a quick appetizer, right?
Exactly. They become like an art form,
Mm.
a symbol of, gourmet taste. And people are choosing them for all sorts of events, casual get-togethers, fancy events, you name it. But the demand is there. The key is, how do you carve out a specific niche? Because it's a pretty crowded market.
Yeah, that makes sense. Niche down. I got it. But how do you stand out? I mean, I picture those kind of generic boards, a couple of cheeses, some grapes, maybe some salami. How do you go beyond that?
That's where the creativity comes in. You got to think outside the cheese box. What about allergen-free boards, for folks with dietary restrictions? Or regional specialty boards, highlighting those locally sourced goodies.
Ooh, regional specialty boards. I like that.
Yeah. It's about tapping into that local food movement, showcasing those unique flavors that you can't find just anywhere.
Like a taste of place.
Exactly. And people love that authentic experience, feeling a connection to where their food comes from. Imagine partnering with that amazing cheesemaker everyone's talking about, or that farm down the road with those heirloom tomatoes, the one known for its sustainable practices. It's about weaving a narrative around your board. It's more than just ingredients at that point.
It's a whole story. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. With all this talk about gourmet and luxury, can you actually make money selling charcuterie boards? People might be hesitant to pay a premium for what they see as, well, just cheese and crackers.
That's where knowing your costs and pricing strategies comes in. It's crucial. You absolutely have to factor in everything. The cost of your ingredients, and not just any ingredients. We're talking high quality here. Your time and effort, packaging, all those overhead costs like marketing and delivery. And then you got to determine a markup that makes sense. One that lets you make a profit while still being competitive in your market.
Got it. So no slapping a price tag on it and crossing your fingers.
No way. You got to be strategic. You have to understand your financials. The guide really pushes using accounting software. That way you can keep track of all your expenses and revenue. Or even consider hiring a professional accountant if numbers aren't your thing.
Right, get the experts involved.
Yeah, exactly. Might seem like an extra cost up front, but trust me, it's worth it. Having those systems in place from the beginning, it'll save you from major headaches down the road.
No one wants a financial headache. So we've got our niche, we've crunched the numbers, we're ready to start putting together those amazing boards. But hold on, before we go full cheese crazy, what about the legal side of things? The guide really stresses food safety. What are some of the big things to keep in mind?
Or absolutely. Food safety is non-negotiable, especially with stuff that can spoil easily. You have to know the food handling regulations in your area, inside and out. And you might need to get certain certifications. Maintaining a spotless kitchen is a must. Making sure you store everything at the right temperature, being super clear about allergens, it's all crucial. We're talking about protecting your customers and your business.
Right, no one wants to get sick from a poorly handled charcuterie board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the legal stuff. It's about trust. Your customers need to know that you take food safety seriously, that you're committed to providing a safe and enjoyable experience. That's how you build a solid reputation.
Absolutely. Okay, speaking of enjoyable experiences, let's talk visuals. This guide practically screams Instagram worthy. How do you turn that into a solid marketing strategy? We all see those beautifully styled boards online, but how do you actually stand out in that crowded space?
You're right, visuals are key in this game. But don't just post static pictures of your boards. Get people engaged. Think behind-the-scenes content. Videos of you at the farmer's market, picking out the perfect ingredient.
Oh, showing the process.
Exactly. Let them see the artistry as you arrange everything. You could even do quick tips on creating a visually appealing spread at home. People love that stuff.
Behind the scenes, I like it. People love to see the story behind the food. It makes your brand more authentic, more personal.
That's it. And remember, consistency is key. Having that strong visual identity across your website, your social media, even your packaging, it makes a big difference in how people see your brand.
So it's creating that cohesive experience, right? From the moment they find you online to the moment they open that beautifully packaged box.
Exactly. It's all about creating a memorable brand experience, something that goes beyond just the food itself.
Right. So we've talked niche, finances, the legal side of things, and visual branding. What else do we need to consider before we jump into actually creating these charcuterie masterpieces?
Well, before we get lost in the artistry, let's talk operations. Think workflow, order management, all the logistics of delivery and pickup. How are you actually going to make this work?
Ooh, this is where things get real, right? Especially when those orders start piling up. Meeting those deadlines while keeping that quality high, it can be a juggling act.
You got it. That's why having efficient systems in place is so important. The guide suggests breaking down the process into manageable steps, like pre-slicing and portioning ingredients whenever you can. It not only saves time during assembly, but also ensures consistency across all your boards.
That makes sense. Streamline, streamline, streamline. What about managing those incoming orders? Spreadsheets and sticky notes, or is there a better way?
Thankfully, we've moved past the handwritten notes. This guide recommends order management software. It can streamline everything. Order intake, processing payments, scheduling deliveries. There are so many options out there, some even designed specifically for food businesses. It takes a lot of the stress out of managing that administrative side of things.
Sounds like a lifesaver, especially when you're dealing with a ton of orders. Speaking of volume, at what point do you bring in extra hands? I mean, you can only slice so much salami and arrange so many grapes in a day, right?
It's a good question. It really depends on you, your capacity and how much you want to grow. The guide suggests starting small and scaling up as needed. Maybe start with enlisting some friends or family to help out during those busy times.
Right, the trusty helpers.
Exactly. Then, as you grow, maybe hire a part-time assistant for prep work or deliveries. If you're really ambitious, you could eventually build a whole team to handle all aspects of the business.
Wow, a charcuterie empire. So it's about having a strong base and building on it as you go, rather than trying to do everything at once right from the start.
Exactly. And remember, delegating doesn't mean losing control. It means freeing up your time and energy to focus on what you're passionate about, the things that really need your expertise.
I like that. Focus on your strengths. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment. Inventory management. With so many different ingredients and varying shelf lives, it seems like a logistical nightmare. How do you stay on top of it all? How do you make sure you're not over-ordering and ending up with a mountain of wasted food?
That's where the FIFO method comes in, when we talked about that earlier. First in, first out. It sounds simple, but it's a game changer for minimizing waste. Basically, you use the oldest items in your inventory first, so you might need to rotate stock regularly, label everything with those arrival dates, and have a system for tracking what needs to be used up first.
Oh, so it's all about organization and a keen eye for detail.
You got it. But let's be realistic. Even with the best systems, there's always going to be some waste when you're working with food, especially stuff that expires. The key is to minimize it as much as possible. The guide even suggests getting creative with those leftover bits and pieces.
Like what, charcuterie scraps for the team?
Huh, sure. Or maybe donate them to a local food bank. Or even experiment with new recipes that use those ingredients in different ways.
Oh, I like that. Turning potential waste into something new. So it's not just about cost saving, but also about being mindful of the environmental impact.
Exactly. Sustainability is a big deal these days. Consumers care about where their food comes from and how it impacts the planet. By showing that you're committed to reducing waste, you're not only doing the right thing, but you're also attracting a growing group of conscious consumers.
So it's good for the planet and good for business. Win-win.
Absolutely. It goes back to building a brand that people connect with. People want to support businesses that share their values.
Makes sense. Okay, we've covered a lot here. Food safety, production, inventory management, sustainability. But before we wrap this part up, let's talk about customer service. What are some key things to remember when you want to create a positive experience for your customers? You know, the people who are actually going to enjoy your charcuterie creations.
You're absolutely right. Customer service is vital for any business, especially in the food world. Personal taste is huge. This guide highlights the importance of clear communication, being responsive, and going that extra mile to exceed expectations.
Okay, but what does that look like in action? Are we talking handwritten thank you notes or something more?
It can be simple things, responding to inquiries quickly, being flexible with delivery or pickup, or even just chatting with customers about what they like and offering personalized recommendations.
It's that personal touch, making the customer feel valued, not just like another order number.
Exactly. Don't underestimate word of mouth. A happy customer is your best advertisement. They'll tell their friends and family about their great experience, and that brings in new business and builds loyalty.
That's powerful. building relationships, not just selling boards.
That's it. And those relationships extend beyond individual customers, too. The guide also talks about building strong relationships with your suppliers, local businesses, even other food artisans in your community.
So, networking within the food community.
Exactly. Think about it. Strong supplier relationships mean you get the best ingredients, often at better prices. Partnering with local businesses can open up new avenues for marketing and even help you reach new customers. And working with other food artisans can lead to creative collaborations, cross-promotion, and even spark new product ideas.
It's like building a whole support system, a community of people who can help you grow your business and make your offerings even better.
Exactly. It's about seeing the bigger picture. Realizing that success in this industry often depends on collaboration and being willing to share what you know.
I love that. So it's clear that starting a charcuterie board business goes way beyond just arranging some tasty food. It's about building relationships, crafting a strong brand, and having a solid understanding of both the creative and operational sides of the business. It's a balancing act.
I couldn't agree more. It needs a mix of culinary skills, business smarts, and a real passion for creating memorable experiences. And with that, I think we've covered the core elements of running a successful charcuterie board operation, from food safety and workflow to marketing and customer service. A solid base to launch you into this exciting culinary adventure.
This has been incredibly insightful, and I have a feeling there's even more to explore in this world of charcuterie, but we'll have to save that for next time.
Oh, there's definitely more to uncover.
So, for our listeners, stay tuned for part 2 of our charcuterie board business deep dive. We'll be back soon to delve into even more nuances and intriguing aspects of this delicious venture. All right, welcome back to our charcuterie deep dive. So we've talked about everything from niche selection to marketing, but as we were just saying before the break, there's a whole other side to this business, right? The operational side of things.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of, creating those beautiful boards.
Right. But then there are all those nitty-gritty details. How do you actually run a smooth and efficient operation, especially when you're dealing with food that can go bad quickly?
That's where it gets really interesting and sometimes a little challenging. You've got multiple orders coming in, deadlines to meet, and you always got to maintain that high level of quality we talked about. Plus, you can't forget about food safety.
Right. Food safety is super important. We touched on it a bit earlier, but let's go a little deeper. What are some of the must-do practices to make sure everything is handled and stored the right way?
This guide is very clear about that. Maintaining the correct storage temperatures, proper handling procedures, and being super aware of allergens, those are non-negotiable. For instance, knowing how to store different types of cheese properly is crucial.
Oh, right. Like different cheeses need different temperatures.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Some like it a bit warmer, while others need to be kept colder. And don't even get me started on cured meats. Storing those properly is a whole other ballgame. It's a science, really.
So it's definitely not just chucking everything in the fridge and hoping for the best.
No way. You got to think about things like humidity control, making sure there's good air circulation, and labeling everything correctly, with the dates too, of course. The guide recommends investing in good quality storage containers, the airtight kind. And if you're serious about this, maybe even a separate fridge just for cheese.
A dedicated cheese fridge. I like it. Okay, so storage is sorted. But what about the actual process of putting those boards together? I imagine it can get pretty hectic in a busy charcuterie kitchen, especially when you're trying to assemble lots of boards at the same time.
You're right, it can get a bit crazy. That's why having a clear production workflow is essential. The guide suggests breaking down the process into steps. For example, pre-slicing and portioning those ingredients whenever possible. It not only saves time when you're actually assembling, but also helps ensure consistency across all your boards.
That makes a lot of sense. Efficiency is key. So, what about keeping track of all those incoming orders? Are we talking spreadsheets and sticky notes here, or is there a more modern way to handle that?
Thankfully, it's not the dark ages anymore. We've moved beyond the handwritten notes. The guide recommends using order management software. It really streamlines everything from taking the order to processing payment and even scheduling deliveries. And there are so many options available now. Some are even made specifically for food businesses. It really takes the headache out of managing all that admin stuff.
Oh, I bet. Especially when the orders start pouring in, that technology can be a lifesaver. But speaking of volume, at what point do you think about bringing in some extra help? I mean, you can only slice so much salami and arrange so many grapes in a day, right? There's got to be a limit.
That's a great question. It really depends on you and how much you can handle your capacity and your goals for the business. The guide suggests starting small and scaling up gradually as your business grows. Maybe you start by asking friends or family to lend a hand during those super busy periods.
The good old support system.
Exactly. And then as you grow, maybe hire a part-time assistant to help with prep work or deliveries. And eventually, if you're really ambitious, you might even build a whole team to handle all the different parts of the business.
Wow, a charcuterie dream team. So it's about starting with a good foundation and building from there, not trying to do everything yourself right from the start.
Exactly. And remember, delegating some of those tasks doesn't mean you're giving up control. It means you're freeing yourself up to focus on what you love and what you're really good at. The things that need your expertise.
Right, play to your strengths.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about inventory management. With so many different ingredients and different expiration dates, it seems like it'd be super tricky to keep track of everything. How do you make sure you're not over ordering and ending up with tons of wasted food?
That's where the FIFO method comes in handy. Remember we talked about that earlier, first in, first out. It might seem simple, but it's really important for keeping waste to a minimum and making sure your ingredients are as fresh as possible. So you basically want to make sure you're using the oldest items in your inventory first.
Oh, so like rotating your stock.
Yes, exactly. Rotating stock, labeling everything clearly with the dates, and having some kind of system to keep track of what needs to be used up first.
Organization is key.
You got it. But even with the best inventory management in the world, there's always going to be some level of waste when you're working with fresh ingredients.
Right.
Things expire. The key is to minimize it as much as possible. The guide even suggests finding creative ways to use up those leftover bits and pieces.
Like what? Staff snacks, charcuterie scraps for everyone.
Maybe. Or you could donate them to a local food bank, or even experiment with new recipes that use those ingredients in different ways.
Ooh, I like that. Turning potential waste into something delicious and new. So it's
Yeah.
not just about saving money, but also about being mindful of the environmental impact.
Exactly. Sustainability is becoming more and more important to consumers. People are really starting to think about where their food comes from and how it impacts the planet. By showing that you're committed to reducing food waste, you're not only doing the right thing for the environment, but you're also appealing to a growing segment of customers who care about these things.
So it's good for the planet and good for business. It's a win-win.
Absolutely. It all ties back into building a brand that resonates with your audience. People want to support businesses that align with their values.
That makes sense. Okay, we've covered a lot. Food safety, production, inventory, sustainability. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we need to talk about customer service. How do you create that positive and memorable experience for the people who are going to enjoy your charcuterie creations? What are some key things to consider?
That's a great point. Customer service is crucial in any business, but especially when you're dealing with food, where taste and preferences are so personal. The guide really emphasizes clear communication, being responsive to your customers' needs, and going above and beyond to make them happy.
Okay, but what does that look like in real life? Are we talking handwritten thank you notes or what?
It can be simple things, like responding to emails and messages quickly, being flexible with delivery and pickup times, or even just taking a few minutes to chat with customers about what they like, offering personalized recommendations, making them feel heard.
Right, it's that personal touch,
Right.
making people feel valued, not just like another transaction.
Exactly. And never underestimate the power of word-of-mouth marketing. A happy customer will tell their friends and family about their positive experience, and that can lead to so much new business and loyalty.
That's true. It's all about building those relationships, not just selling boards.
Exactly. And those relationships can go beyond just your customers. The guide also talks about building good relationships with your suppliers, local businesses, even other food artisans in your area.
Oh, right. Networking within the food community.
Exactly. Strong relationships with your suppliers mean you're more likely to get the best ingredients, often at better prices too. Partnering with local businesses can open up new opportunities for marketing and getting your name out there. And collaborating with other food artisans can lead to, well, who knows, maybe a cross-promotion or even a brand new product idea.
So it's about creating this whole network of support, right? A
Yeah.
community of people who can help you grow and make your offerings even better.
Absolutely. It's about thinking bigger. Success in the food industry often relies on collaboration and sharing what you know.
I love that. It seems like starting a charcuterie business goes way beyond just putting together some tasty food. It's about building relationships, having a strong brand, and understanding both the creative and the business side of things. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. But it's also incredibly rewarding. And I think we've covered a lot of the important stuff here today. From food safety and production to marketing and customer service, we've laid a good foundation for anyone looking to dive into this delicious world.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I've learned a ton, and I have a feeling there's still more to uncover in this world of charcuterie.
Oh, definitely. There's always more to explore.
Well, for our listeners, stay tuned for part 3 of our charcuterie board business deep dive. We'll be back soon to dig into some of the more interesting and, well, nuanced aspects of this exciting business.
Welcome back to our charcuterie deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from choosing your niche and marketing to all the, well, the operational stuff and making those customers happy. But now I'm thinking about what takes a charcuterie board from just, good to like truly exceptional.
It's all about those extra touches.
Right, the details, but what are we talking about specifically?
Well, the guide calls them value-added elements. It's about making it an experience, not just food on a board.
Right.
Adding a story to every bite. Okay, more than just tasty ingredients arranged nicely. I'm all ears. Tell me more about these value-added elements.
There's some really fun ideas in here. Think about those little handwritten notes, especially for special occasions. You could tuck one under a sprig of rosemary or next to a jar of, like, fancy honey. Or how about unique serving accessories?
Ooh, I like that.
Right, like a handcrafted cheese knife or elegant little bamboo skewers, even a small slate board to label the different cheeses.
It's those little touches that show you put thought into it. It's like turning the charcuterie board into a gift or the centerpiece of a special occasion.
Exactly. And those extras can connect back to your niche and your brand. So if you're all about, say, being eco-conscious, you could package everything in compostable materials. Or partner with a local woodworker who uses reclaimed wood for the boards. Or, if you're going for that luxury feel, you could source those rare imported cheeses and pair them with fancy wines.
Ooh, fancy cheese and wine pairings.
Even offer tasting notes and pairing suggestions. It elevates the whole experience.
It's about finding those special things that make your brand stand out, right? Creating that sense of value that goes beyond just the food itself.
Exactly. It's curating an experience that really connects with the people you want to reach. It leaves a mark.
Okay, I'm convinced about the value-added elements, but with so many incredible charcuterie boards out there now, how do you stay ahead of the game? How do you make sure your boards are fresh, exciting, and, in demand?
That's where keeping up with the latest trends comes in. The food world's always changing, and charcuterie is no exception.
So what are we seeing? What are the trends to watch out for in the charcuterie world? What's next?
Well, one thing we're seeing is a shift towards more adventurous flavors. So think pickled veggies, exotic fruits, spicy chutneys, even edible flowers. Those unexpected additions that add a pop of color and, well, a burst of flavor.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just the traditional cheese and meat combos anymore. It's about being bolder.
Exactly. And there's a growing demand for dietary-specific boards, too.
Yeah.
Vegan charcuterie, gluten-free options, keto-friendly spreads. There's a huge opportunity to cater to those specific needs and preferences that are often forgotten in the traditional charcuterie world.
That's a great point. Making the charcuterie experience accessible for everyone, no matter their dietary needs.
Right. And, like we talked about before, sustainability is huge. Consumers are more and more aware of how their food choices impact the environment. They want businesses that share those values. So that might mean using locally sourced ingredients, reducing packaging waste, working with suppliers who are committed to ethical and sustainable practices.
So it's not just about creating a tasty and beautiful board. It's about being conscious of the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Food businesses can play a part in promoting sustainability and inspiring change.
Now, I'm curious, with all these changing trends and the need to always be innovating, how does someone keep up? Is it culinary school, or are there other ways to keep learning and growing in this field?
Culinary school is definitely an option. But there are so many other ways to learn and expand your charcuterie horizons. Workshops, industry events, food blogs and magazines, social media, connecting with other food artisans. There's tons of knowledge and inspiration out there.
It's about staying connected, being an active part of the food community.
Right, always looking for new ideas. And don't forget about experimenting in your own kitchen. Don't be afraid to try new things. Step outside your comfort zone. Play with those unexpected flavors. That's often where the magic happens.
That's great advice. As we wrap up our deep dive, I keep thinking about this idea of passion. This guide really stresses that a successful charcuterie business is more than just skills and business know-how. It's about that love for what you do, that excitement for creating something beautiful and delicious that brings people together. It's contagious.
You nailed it. That passion is what keeps you going through the long hours, the challenges, the inevitable bumps in the road that come with any business. It's what makes a good charcuterie board great. And it's what truly connects you with your customers.
It's the heart and soul of it all. So, for our listener who's ready to start their charcuterie adventure, what final words of wisdom would you offer? What's the secret sauce for turning this passion into a thriving, fulfilling business?
Well, first of all, never stop learning, never stop experimenting. Embrace the fact that the culinary world is constantly evolving and let your creativity run wild. Second, build those genuine relationships with your suppliers, your collaborators, your customers. Those connections are what make a food business truly special. And lastly, don't ever lose sight of that passion, that initial spark that got you started in the first place.
That's fantastic advice. It's been such a pleasure diving deep into this world of charcuterie with you. And for our listener, we hope this has sparked some ideas and given you the knowledge and inspiration to create something truly amazing. Remember, the most important ingredient in any charcuterie board is the passion you bring to it. So go out there, experiment, create, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.